the chief guest, Dr. Binod Chaudhary, who has been very aptly introduced by Akram Haq a little earlier, chairman of CG Global, Nepal's only single dollar businessman, dollar billionaire of Nepalese origin, philanthropist who runs a bevy of educational institutions in Nepal. And I must add, because once in a while, that's my breakfast, the owner of the brand custodian of YY brand, which we know one of the largest brand of noodles in the world. Binod ji, it's an honor to have you with us today. And yes, I remember meeting you in that room where you were sitting just now, perhaps, once in the past, and meeting Nirvan ji a couple of times. It has been really encouraging listening to you formally and also in informal situations. I have met you in business conclaves in Kathmandu once as well. So good to have you here, sir. So let's listen to you first, and then also talk about your book as well as we go along. Dr. Binod Chaudhary, Chairman, CG Global.
Thank you so much, Professor Ujjalji. I definitely recall with immense fondness our several meetings and interactions. In fact, I wish to acknowledge your contributions to the Nepalese academia and to many of the Nepalese institutions. I think Nepal always remembers you, respects you, and I look forward to bring you back to Nepal at an appropriate time for the right kind of reasons. Allow me to also acknowledge the distinguished panel of speakers. It is indeed heartening to be invited as the chief guest. I don't know whether how appropriate is my background for this kind of event that you've been able to pull through. 2,000 educators and 60 distinguished speakers from the 7 countries. Amazing galaxy of thought leaders in the current situation to bring the issues which are interrelated between education and industry, which you briefly summed up. At the very outset, let me thank the organizers, the Policy Times India, for this opportunity to be among the constellations of intellectuals, luminaries, and leaders from the business community, academia, and philanthropy. I'm humbled by the honor given to me as the chief guest of this important session. When I reflect on my own, where I stand now, paradoxical it may sound though, there is a very little role of formal education in shaping me as the business person, since I never got the opportunity to be a regular student in the university. Perhaps preoccupied with a dream to expand my business day in, day out, dreaming big, working hard, and experimenting new ideas with courage, I truly feel are in themselves a great university and recipe for success in business. Having said this, however, I'm not suggesting that mutuality and complementarity between education and industry, to take both of these fields simultaneously to newer heights, particularly in the current age of invention and innovation, are at all unimportant. At the same time, when we deliberate on the theme of education industry integration, we must be able to think beyond employment, employability, the cliches of human resource management, demand supply of the labor market. The future of our nations, communities, and individual citizens depend more on the ability of our academic institutions to create dreamers, thinkers, and philosophers than creating only technical hands, managers, and administrators. If it is not a slight digression, let me take pride of our heritage of rishis and acharyas as educators who believed in imparting values, ethos, selflessness, morality, self-esteem, and above all, the knowledge for service of humanity and Mother Earth, not merely as commodity to sell in exchange for monetary gain. In the present day materialistic world, it may sound impractical, but if we try to see things in broader canvas, in light of the problems of the global scale, like the climate change, fast depletion of natural resources, repeated disasters and catastrophes, and global pandemic like COVID-19 that the humanity faces today, the imperatives of imbibing these values to our future leaders in every spectrum of life through our education system becomes even more indispensable. This in turn can become perhaps the most powerful integrating factor as well, not only for education and industry, but for the entire gamut of things relating to production, profit, consumption, economic development, and of course, ultimate sustainability of livelihood. Business community, if that is what we are trying to mean here by industry, has provided mainly three channels of integration. First, the business community has invested substantially in creating quality education institutions for all levels of people, also to cater to different strata of the society. Second, the private sector economy everywhere in the world is the biggest employer of university graduates of diverse disciplines and skills, generally paying far higher than the public sector. Thirdly, the businesses and industries, their practices, successes, and also the failures have become mainstay of economic and business research, which has led to better decision-making, enhanced economic efficiency, and more secure investment and return for the future. On the other side, the education system in general and educational institutions in particular has made valuable contributions in producing the required manpower for the industry. But as an international employer, let me emphasize here that there is still a real need of working towards the demand and supply gaps in skills and knowledge of college graduates. Industry has but no alternative to employ the latest technology that comes into the market. But the academic institutions are often found struggling to keep the same pace of updating their curriculum and pedagogy. Apart from pure hard skills required on the job, instilling set of soft skills on the young graduates is a new emerging challenge for both the academia and industry. In other words, it warrants an added level of integrated approach and coordinated endeavors. While talking about South Asia, I also can visualize another form of integration. Businesses and investments across the border among the South Asian nations are low but steadily growing. I have my own business in many different countries of the region, and businessmen from other countries of the subcontinent have invested in Nepal. Needless to say, India remains an education hub, both in the past and present of the region. Not only IIM, IIT, and AIMS system of educational institutions in India have remained prime attractions for students from all neighboring countries. Newly evolved private universities, disciplined, dedicated institutes have fared equally well in quality and in developing diversity of modern skills in ICT, management, and academic as well as applied research. The newly defined pillars of access, equity, quality, affordability, and accountability in the Indian education system will certainly help India to compete in global education market. It will provide opportunity to the other neighbors like Nepal to replicate successful education policies. I must mention here, Nepal has been one of the major beneficiaries of India's academic excellence, as India is one of the most preferred destinations for Nepali students. Indian government also provides a significant number of scholarships each year for Nepali nationals, which has been a major facet of our bilateral cooperation. The Nepali corporate sector has benefited by skills inculcated by the Indian academic institutions into young Nepali professionals. As we sit here, it has been almost a year that the world has literally seized by the COVID-19 pandemic. Education sector is one of the hardest hit. 1.6 billion students globally missed their classes due to COVID-19 related disruptions. According to a UNICEF estimate, 40% of the poorest countries failed to support learners. In Nepal alone, 6 million, and in India alone, 400 million children were not able to even to take online classes, mainly due to lack of access of digital connectivity, which Dr. Binod Chaudhary also mentioned. The COVID-19 pandemic also exposed our vulnerability and unpreparedness, digital divide, and potholes in our education system resilience. This certainly is a cause of concern, but also an opportunity for the governments, private sector, and academia to work towards to bridge these multifaceted gaps in access and exclusions. In our part of the world, we suffer from similar challenges. The skill sets of teachers and their ability to adjust to newer situations, to handle gadgets or to afford to them were major bottlenecks. The poorest ones suffered the most. This is high time to invest in digital connectivity, its productive use and transitioning the teaching, learning, what is called to the new normal these days. The private sector certainly can come in here, and the concerned government need to encourage and facilitate these linkages. The industry also hugely suffered from its suspension of productivity and ensuing economic losses. It is in turn lost its ability to provide additional employment. The recovery as it appears now will be a slow and a long journey. The return to normality in education is obvious to be different depending on the extent of spread of virus and, more importantly, availability of vaccine to the most vulnerable ones. It is time of sharing experiences and empathy across the board and continue to cooperate wherever possible. That certainly paves the way, if not for integration, for more meaningful cooperation in the future. Finally, I've always believed in putting what I envision into practice. The Chaudhary Group, which I head, is led by the philosophy that investing in education is in fact investing in the future of the nation, future of the humanity. We run a number of educational institutions under the corporate brand, though a philanthropy wing. The Chaudhary Foundation, we contribute within our capacity to educate the children of marginalized sections of the society. After 2015 earthquake, our group provided support to reconstruct hundreds of schools building destroyed by the quake in remote villages of the country and providing classrooms to thousands of students, distributed textbook, school dresses, and other learning support material in the hard-hit areas. We provide a significant number of scholarships every year, including to enable girl child to deprived communities to go to school. Similarly, our foundation has implemented a digital classroom project in rural areas in community schools of Nepal. Such opportunities provided prepares our children to be a global citizen with skills and quality education we are transferring to our young children. Number of schools have been equipped with water filters with safe drinking water. During COVID-19, we worked with concerned institutions, including our foundation, to ensure that the health workers were provided adequate equipments, including the PPE and ventilators, sanitizers, and all the other required help. Education and support around it, always at the core of our foundation's value. Our support toward education is always a substantial cause for our group. Looking forward, both academia and the private sector must work in tandem in undertaking each other's expectations and in harnessing the opportunity for mutual benefit, bestowed by time and in advancement in science and technology. I thank you once again for this opportunity and for your patient hearing.
Thank you, Binodji. I really appreciate this point that industry shouldn't only look at the high end or higher education end of education while supporting society, should also look at the grassroots end or the lower end, so-called lower end, because education, the need of it is at different levels of economics disposition of the audience that we have in our countries, whether it's Nepal or India, in both the countries. So the Chaudhary Group's contribution to the grassroots education and to the high-end management and higher education, both are well known, and that's well taken. The explanation
Thank
on
you.
the digital connectivity is also very critical that you have said. I also appreciate for the book that you brought forth, which talks about the growth, how an ambition can actualify or actualize in reality. And the way you have explained your life story in the book, which has now gone into 6 languages and published in 10 countries, including Nepal, India, UK, US, Serbia, and UAE and Bangladesh. I'm told by Akram that there's a short video on the book. Maybe we can have a quick look at the short video and then we talk further.
So,
And only billionaire of Nepal, Mr. Binod Chaudhary is the chairman of CG Corp Global. Also popular as philanthropist and politician, Mr. Chaudhary now has come up with new innings of his life as a writer with his autobiography, Making It Big, the inspiring story of Nepal's first billionaire in his own words. The book was called Must Read for everyone. The book charts the immensely successful and interesting life story of a self-made man who never forgot to enjoy or live his life while navigating his way up a volatile, unstable, and unfriendly environment. Mr. Chaudhary, who has been an idol for many youths globally and inspires them with his motivational speech, came up with a new avatar as a writer. Through his autobiography, he made it big himself. And he likes to say that he's a small man from a small country with big dreams.
This is a story of a man. It's not only about me, it's also about a man from a small country with big dreams. It's a story of somebody from the streets of Kathmandu who had the courage to make it to the streets of New York and be recognized. We did it. It took us 5 years. Sudeep and me, we worked very hard, and the book was launched, and I'm most gratified and appreciative of everyone, right from Nepalia to the team, who played a significant role in making the book public, and more importantly, everybody who read it.
I had a big dream. If you have a dream to succeed and commitment towards it, you can achieve it, Mr. Chaudhary says. The book has been published in 5 different languages: Nepali, English, Hindi, Serbian, and Kyrgyz, and has been launched and promotion has been held throughout Nepal and South Asia, Central Asia, Europe, and the US. When Nepalaya, one of the leading publication houses of Nepal, approached Mr. Chaudhary to publish his autobiography,
उहाँको आत्मकथामा भएको मेरिटहरू चाहिँ नि उहाँ सेल्फ मेड मान्छे, त्यसपछि यहाँ नेपालमा रोल मोडलहरूको कमी भएको ठाउँमा चाहिँ नि बिजनेस सेक्टरमा उहाँ चाहिँ यो एउटा रोल मोडलको रूपमा जुन प्रस्तुत हुनुभएको छ, त्यसले गर्दाखेरि समाजमा धेरै सकारात्मक किसिमको एउटा हामीले पुस्तक प्रस्तुत गर्न सक्छौँ भन्ने हिसाबमा निकालेका हौँ।
Book launch programs were held in various cities, schools, and colleges across the country. Readers, particularly youths, were very interested in reading the book, as Mr. Chaudhary has become a role model for many of them. The Hindi version, titled Ek Uchi Udan, was launched in New Delhi in 2017 by Rajpal and Sons. whereas the English version was released in 2015.
Mr. Binod Chaudhary's story is extremely strong and inspiring. He rose from the ground up, made his career in business, and today he's a self-made billionaire. I'm extremely proud and delighted to publish this book, and I hope all of you can read it and get inspired by his story.
Indeed, from the streets of Kathmandu to the higher echelons of New York, South Asian societies need first generation success story as role models. Thank you, Dr. Chaudhary. But before you go, I would like to know, on behalf of the audience and the panel that we have together here, what would you say in very few words? I understand we have a long panel to go, but in few words, what would you understand as the mantras of your success? Because it's not so easy. The empire that you built up, the philanthropy also that you built up, has been in the last 25 years, a period when Nepal saw the highest amount of uncertainty in economic, political, and social life, moving from a discredited monarchy, a broken monarchy, a violence-ridden monarchy towards the end, to a democratic movement which was long, to a sort of civil war or militancy, whatever you call it, finally coming to a multi-party democracy, which has also been slightly unstable initially, and now getting stabilized with a new constitution. In this scenario, you built up the empire, the business empire, and also gone to various nations around the world. What have been your 2 or 3 major mantras of success? Dr. Binod Chaudhary.
Thank you, Professor Chaudhary, and I'm really humbled. Albeit a bit too long, but I think it did give an opportunity to share. Let's put it this way, that life is not without challenge, and my life perhaps started with bigger challenge all the way right from the beginning. Coming from a humble, modest business family in Nepal, and you've already rightly pointed out, if you talk of the recent, which is a country which has been perpetually in some form of a transitional politics, and the scale of transition has been huge, ranging from the monarchy to a multi-party democracy to an armed Maoist movement, including the king's takeover, and now a parliament which has recently been dissolved and waiting for new elections to be held. We've seen situations where in 26 years' time, we've seen 25 governments. But the flip side of it, that when you move through a situation like that, you're also pushed in a situation where you learn to love work, when you learn to operate without governments, you learn to operate in the most complex environment. I'll give you an example. We joined hands with Tatas and the Taj Group to form a joint venture in Sri Lanka to take over Samudra at the same time when 6 aircrafts were bombed in Colombo airport. Nobody would have even touched it. Even Sri Lankans were not prepared to take it. We went to the Northeast with our brand of noodle, which you acknowledged, 30 years ago, at a time when in Northeast was considered to be one of the most disturbed part of India with perpetual insurgencies. We had to deal with the governments, we had to deal with Ulfa, we had to deal with the Nagas, So I think life is all about balance. Life is all about steering your path through difficult times and making sure that you are not deterred, you move forward and do not compromise in your ultimate destination. As they say, the Arjun Drishti, you have to look at your destination and that's it. And whatever hurdles come your way, finding a solution or jumping over. So, success is always relative. I'm totally, entirely satisfied that we've been able to build an organization which is over a period of, in one way you can call it over the 3 generations, which has taken the life, blood and sweat and dreams of 3 generations. On the other hand, say 45 years of real growth, which spans all over the world. I think it is, as I always say, that despite coming from a small country with a modest background, always dreamed big. Probably that's the most important message that I like to share. And that's what I tell all the new generation, the youth today, that today's world is even easier for people to conquer if you believe in yourself. Because today's world is all about connectivity. It's not about capital, ability to connect demand with supply. You have to see that gap, and that's what it is. It's becoming irrelevant, whether you come from business community or not. Actually, if you look at some of the most successful businessmen who have emerged as global leaders, they're all first generation. And they're all in the age bracket of 30 to 40. Right. Okay, if you look at the biggest companies that the Fortune 500 or the Forbes have delivered between 2000 to 2020, in fact, the conventional business houses are lagging behind. So I think it's all about the courage. It's all about believing in yourself. It's all about not having a complex from where you come. It is gone are the days when I think the monopoly of the business in the larger sense was restricted to only big economies and bigger business houses. I think a businessman can be born even in Ukraine. I remember John Com, who used to work in a bakery as a sweeper, who launched the WhatsApp and sold it eventually for $18 billion.
Right. Thank you.
The age of 18. So there is nothing called geography which is relevant. There is nothing called the background of your family which is relevant. You may be a son of a carpenter or a farmer, and you may still make it to the Silicon Valley and to the Forbes of New York. That's it.
Yes, indeed. Post-pandemic, there will be new billionaires who will come out of the dark, out of the unknown blue. And there will be many entitled houses which will go kaput. The new pandemic has really brought in immense, on one side, immense struggle and crisis, on the other side, immense possibilities as well. And I really appreciate this whole talk of fighting entitlement success can come from any background. That's something which is very inspiring. And before I bring the next speaker, I must also mention, Binodji, that you find a great time to manage between your social commitments, your educational commitments. You run more than 20 educational institutions, perhaps in Nepal, and also a big business with 48 or 49 divisions. And also you sit in the parliament, deliberating on policies. So all these you can do together. Also, please, at this point, allow me to give a salute to Nirvan Chaudhary, the managing director, also your son, and Nirvan Chaudhary, who has been managing the business very well under your guidance and supervision. I just wanted to say, because I know him personally and I've seen him work hard. And thank you, Binodji, for inspiring South Asians across all countries and being a first generation role model for the South Asian population. Thank you very much.